and welcome to our tutorial on uploading Trailcam footage and reviewing the data. So I'm going to be pointing out some of the features available on Trailcam Data to make navigation a little bit easier. When we log in, the first page we see is our home. Here you have access to the tutorial video on how to upload images, as well as you'll have access to the menu on the left-hand side. This allows you to create a new camera or add a new camera. It allows you to see your previous cameras and reports, and you'll also be able to change your password as well. So for this tutorial, we're going to create or add a new camera. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Add Camera here. And here I'm prompted to add a camera name. You can name this camera any name you want, whether it's something that describes the location or type of camera. Just make sure it's something that you can uniquely identify. So I'm going to go ahead and name this camera Camera 2. Not very creative, but it'll do. Great. So next I'm prompted to upload images. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this empty space here and then navigate to my images folder. So fortunately we already have all these images here. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the very first image, go to the very bottom, hold down Shift, and then press click. This allows me to select all of these images with relative ease. I believe you can also use Control A or just simply click and drag. Then we're going to go press open. All right, so now you can see that all of the image thumbnails are currently being loaded here and they're ready for processing. So once you've selected all of your images, just go ahead and click Submit All Files. All right, so you'll note that as these images are uploading, there's this check mark that shows up in front of them. There's a variety of things happening in the background. First of all, the images are being uploaded to a secure server that only you can access, and they're also being prepared for review. So as this whole process is going, the great thing is you really don't have to do much here. So you could just go ahead and get up, get some coffee, drink some water, and then come back whenever this is done. And you know that this whole process is done when this sign over here from Click Submit When Ready changes, and it should do so shortly. All right, great. So you can see that all of these images have been uploaded. We have this file successfully uploaded sign showing up here. So we're going to go ahead and now go see our uploaded files to review. All right, so our machine learning algorithm did the best that it could, but there are some things that it may have overseen. So for example, you may see that there are some deer here and here in these images. So we're going to go ahead and make sure that these are checkmarked as deer. Now you'll notice that as I click on these, this little green box shows up behind them. And what this is our bulk editor. So if you'd want, you'd be able to also edit multiple images at once. And these, of course, all of them have deer in them. But let's say I want to make sure that none of them have deer. You'll notice that all of these fields have been updated. But since they all have deer in them, I'm going to go ahead and click deer again, and they're back to normal again. So I can either deselect them if I don't want to work with them anymore, or just simply hit unselect all. I'm going to go ahead now and do this for every single image here. So there's some deer here, deer here. All right, great. So we've picked up on these. And these have been picked up on as well. There's a little deer in the background there, so I'm going to go ahead and make sure that that's been noticed. I'm going to keep scrolling down. There's one here and here, and I apologize if I miss any of them. All right, there's one in the background there. And let's keep going. Now I could also do this in grid view, which makes this process a little bit faster because you have more images showing up in this entire screen here rather than going through list view. But since I've already started this way, let me just go ahead and finish this off here. All right, so there's one there. And the great thing is what I can also do, sometimes Trailcams may output the incorrect date or time. And the great thing with this bulk editing software is we're also able to change the time, either individually by just clicking on the boxes here or at the very top. And I'm going to show you that shortly. Great, so now we've made sure that all the images that have deer in them have been checkmarked as such. As you'll notice, some of these images are still selected, so I'm going to go ahead and go right back up here, unselect all, and you'll notice up here at the top we have all sorts of different fields: day, month, year, hour, minute, and whether that specific image has been reviewed or not. So that may be useful to you to make sure that you're keeping track of which images you've actually looked at. So for example, these 5, you'll notice these have been updated, so in my world they've been reviewed, so I can check mark them as such. It's just a good way to keep track of them, and then you can filter your views, and then you can go to the ones that you may have not reviewed yet so far and just focus on those. And the great thing is we can also switch between list and grid view. And the great thing here is, as you can see, I have much more images to work with, so I can edit through these in a much quicker amount of time, and then I can also do this individual selection process, or I can just select them all. All right, so we've gone through each of these images, and we're now ready to review our report. So we're now on the report page. Here we have some really cool graphical representations of our data. First of all, we have our deer activity summary, just to see how much deer activity have we seen, what's our average activity per day, and what's our date range here. So we have about 6 days worth of activity here. And then we have our deer activity by day, which is our deer activity calendar. And then we have also our time series chart here. Now the great thing about this chart is let's say here I have 6 days worth of data, but maybe you may have a month's worth, and that may be a lot of data to go through. So what you can do is there's this little scrubbing bar here at the very bottom, which kind of serves as a filter and allows you to get more specific with the data, see an hour by hour activity, and then get a more day by day view. Let's say I just want to look at this data by every 3 days, I can do that as well, and then just hold down the mouse and then drag this little bar over. And then of course I also have these little navigational tools here just to make that a little bit of a faster process. I'm going to go back to this default view here. Now, as you'll see, we don't have access to the weather data just yet. In order to access it, we'll have to enter our zip code for this camera. So I'll go ahead and do just that. So just for example, here I'm going to go ahead and enter a zip code for Florida 33890. It's already been autofilled right there. And then we can go hit submit. So the software is thinking in the background and it's loading, and look at that. So we now have access to all sorts of weather-related information. And the great thing is that our deer activity is on a secondary axis over here. And that means we don't have to worry about the weather data, such as temperature, which can be at 80 or even above 90, for example. And in that case, if it is above 90 and we have, let's say, deer activity below 5, if we had them on the same axis, it would almost be impossible to see what kind of deer activity is really happening day by day. So that's really the great thing about having the secondary axis here. Now, what I can also do here as well is scrub through the time data just like I did up there, and then filter it by specific dates. Now, as you can see here, we can already start drawing some conclusions based on this data here. When it gets really hot, we tend to see less deer activity. And then when it gets a little bit cooler, we may see less activity once again. So there does seem to be this little sweet spot here. Now, it's a little bit tough to make any sort of real conclusions based on this limited sample of data. We only uploaded around 62 images of 6 days worth of data. So when you start uploading your images, you may be able to see some really cool insights come out of this. Now, in order to take a deeper look into this data, we can also download the report by clicking on this button up here. And we created this feature so you can really have full control of your data. So after all, this is your information. And in an upcoming video, we're going to dive into the download report feature. But for now, I'm just going to go ahead and press it to show that your download report will come in the form of a CSV file down there, as you can see in that download bar over there. And the great thing is you can open this kind of data file in all sorts of Excel or other data reporting software. So I hope this was a useful tutorial. Stay tuned for more videos to come. Hope you enjoy your time on Trailcam Data.